Some forgotten tragedies. Most terrible occasions make a verifiable sprinkle, and some become emphatically notorious: Pompeii, the Titanic, the Rwandan massacre, and so on. Others, notwithstanding, drop off the public radar very quickly, or never truly arrive at it. Verifiable memory is a dubious thing. An occasion can be awful and obliterating, yet still quickly subside into the fogs of memory if conditions are correct, or wrong. Some of the time the world proceeds onward very quickly to the following misfortune, leaving memory just in the brains and hearts of those generally influenced. Once in a while even survivors wish to fail to remember the excruciating past, and now and again calamities are purposely limited or stifled. Against these inclinations stands the rule that the best honor that can be given to the lost is the advantage of memory. Number 1. The Rana Plaza collapse. The deadliest basic disappointment mishap in present-day history happened in April 2013, and you've most likely never known about it. The scandalous Boston Marathon besieging happened the prior week and gathered much media inclusion with its 3 passings and many injured. Yet, the breakdown of this Bangladeshi structure was a misfortune on an alternate significant degree. 1,134 individuals were slaughtered, with more than twice the same number of harmed. Dhaka, the capital of Bangladesh, was home to the Rana Plaza structure, initially developed to contain shops and workplaces. However, various upper floors were added on, without a grant, to house the substantial hardware for different garments production lines. These production lines fabricated merchandise for such conspicuous brands as Benetton, Prada, Gucci, and Versace, and utilized around 5,000 individuals. Barely any of them realized they were working in a cumbersome demise trap. Tenants of the structure saw breaks in the dividers, roofs, and floors on April 23, and the structure was emptied. However, the structure's proprietor announced the structure safe and encouraged specialists to restore the next day. The shops and bank on the lower floors won't and stayed shut, while the piece of clothing organization chiefs took steps to dock the compensation of any laborers who neglected to check in. Not long before 9 a.m. the next morning, the whole structure fizzled, breaking down into a heap of ruin that an onlooker contrasted with a one-building quake. In excess of 3,000 individuals were in the structure at that point, including piece of clothing laborers, uphold staff, and kids in the organization's in-office nurseries. Some passed on right away, while thousands more were buried in the rubble. The legislative response was blended. Nearby crisis administrations reacted admirably well, saving hundreds from the destruction, and the public authority announced a public day of grieving on April 25. However, there was likewise regulatory face-sparing at work. UN offers of help were dismissed by authorities hesitant of negative global presentation. Volunteer salvage laborers were unfit and poorly drove. The work delayed. The last survivor, needleworker Reshma Begum, was not pulled out until 17 days after the fact. The misfortune lives on in the brains of Bangladeshis and certain global guard dog associations, despite the fact that it has gotten minimal continued consideration somewhere else. Piece of clothing laborers in the country have fought inadequate security practices and low wages, however these fights have sometimes been savagely smothered. The proprietor of the structure, Sohail Rana, is as yet anticipating judgment on various charges of homicide. Number 2. The Spanish flu. Number 3. The Aberfon disaster. Proceeding with the topic of odd mining debacles acquires us to Wales, the 1960s. There, a mining fiasco killed 144 individuals, every one of them over the ground. The Welsh town of Aberfon is settled in a valley ignored by a coal-rich mountain range. In 1966, it had a populace of 5,000, the majority of them utilized in the coal mine shafts. Approaching straightforwardly over the roads was a ruined tip, a store of waste material eliminated during the mining cycle. The British National Coal Board had affirmed the area of the tip, regardless of its closeness to the town. The issue was that piles of ruin are inalienably less steady than virgin stone and defenseless against melting subsequent to getting immersed with water. Unfavorably, the tip was situated over a characteristic spring, whose presence was notable to the NCB. On the morning of October 21, Aberfon had quite recently gotten 3 weeks of memorable precipitation. Diggers had quite recently seen slippage along the outside of the tip. Also, Panclas Junior High School, under 900 meters, 3,000 feet away, had quite recently begun classes for the afternoon. With blasting thunder, around 110,000 cubic meters, 3.9 million ft3 of ruined slurry started sliding down the mountain, a quick half-flood, half-torrential slide that overwhelmed the western edge of the town. Remote farmhouses were pulverized, broken water mains added to the stream, and the school was overwhelmed with garbage. The stifling, smelling mass overwhelmed into the homerooms, streaming quickly through entryways and windows and rapidly resolidifying into strong issue once it quit moving. At the point when the thriving torrential slide halted, a horrendous quietness gushed. As one of the caught survivors recalled sharply, ruined tip, a hill of setting garbage in excess of 9 meters, 30 feet high covered the zone. The fortunate individuals were caught in flotsam and jetsam up to their midriffs or necks. 114 individuals in the school, everything except 5 of them youngsters, were not all that fortunate. Diggers gushed down from the mountainside, on edge to burrow the youngsters, including their own, out of the rubble. Their accomplished endeavors were hindered by other astonished rescuers, whose wild burrowing endeavors must be limited in case they destabilize the entire mass once more. No survivors were found after 11 a.m. A later request blamed the NCB and a few workers for making the preconditions for the debacle, yet no arraignments or punishments came about. Aberfon's coal mine shaft kept on working until 1989. The misfortune is best recalled in Aberfon itself, where a dedication graveyard is found, and stays notable in the UK. Yet, the calamity is still generally secret in the remainder of the world. Like, share, subscribe.